Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are reading today from Transcendental Diaries, Chapter 4, and Srila Prabhupada is in Honolulu. So it's May 13th, 1976. Today was the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev, and everyone fasted until sunset. Due to weakness from his illness, Prabhupada took a small Ekadashi breakfast and then his main meal at sunset. In answer to my question whether Lord Nrsinga actually appeared on this particular planet, he replied that he did not think so. He said that the tirthas in Simhachalam in South India were not authorized. Speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.12 in his class, Srila Prabhupada continued to stress the need for culture. His lecture was short but direct and very much to the point. He made it clear what he meant by culture. The Vedic civilization means everything under rules and regulation. That is Vedic civilization. Animal cannot be brought under rules and regulations. That is not possible. That is the speciality of the human society. That the more one society follows rules and regulations, he is to be considered civilized. He gave the English translation of the verse, which unequivocally describes the need for regulated life. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured, and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, if one follows the regulative principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses towards liberation from material contamination. Prabhupada repeatedly stressed this point. Unless we follow the rules and regulations, then there is no possibility of curing our material disease. Thus he also indicated the need for the establishment of a society like his ISKCON. The law is meant for the human being. If the human being does not follow rules and regulative principles, law, then he is animal. So civilized means to raise oneself from the animal status of life to the human status of life. That means rules and regulations. That is compulsory. That is human. Real civilization is how to go back home, back to Godhead. But materialistic persons do not know this. Therefore, there must be organization, institution, to teach the human society how to go back to home, back to Godhead. Once again, he repeated his definition of civilization. The unlimited, unrestricted sex life like hogs and dogs, that is not civilization. Civilization, the first of all, to learn how to observe celibacy, to come to the point, no sex life, that is perfect civilization, no sex life. So Prabhupada often mentions in other classes, or many of his classes, how we are no better than the animals, than the hogs, the dogs, the cats, the donkeys. Many times he refers to those animals as being just like us in what we're doing. We're doing the same thing that they're doing, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But there's something more that we can do, and that is to philosophize, to dive into Bhagavatam, to chant Hare Krishna. They don't have that same opportunity that we do, being in the bodies that they have. So it's actually our responsibility not to just behave or live like an animal. Although he actually referred to people as being polished animals. In other words, we're doing the same thing but in nicer facilities. So instead of eating outside like the dogs or the hogs, we will have a nice table. Instead of living in a cave or a little hole in the ground, we have a nice house. But it's the same thing, defending, eating, all of those principles that we need to take care of ourselves in this body. It's the same thing we're doing as them. But what makes us fortunate is that we actually have the facility, the capacity to do more than that we can actually consider Krishna more deeply and go back home, back to Godhead. And that's what he says here. And he's saying that we have to be following rules and regulation. Otherwise, if we're just behaving in an unrestricted way, then we're just behaving like them. And Prabhupada says he has been preaching strongly about rascal scientists and bogus gurus, and he declares that the only way to deal with them is to kick them on the face, and this is quite strong, so just bear with me, to kick them on the face and beat them with shoes. So Prabhupada can say that, he has authority to say that, but we cannot say that. We can read what he said, but if we were to approach such personalities, the scientists, and if we were to say this, we would probably get kicked in the face and beat with shoes, because we don't carry the same spiritual authority that Prabhupada had. He can say these things and for us to understand, but it's not that we should think we should speak in this way. He says they are simply rascals. Again, we shouldn't say that, but we can understand. He told us the story of a man who ordered a knife from a blacksmith, but who, thinking that he could cheat the blacksmith and save the steel, did not give the proper grade of steel required for the cutting edge. Naturally, the knife immediately went blunt and was useless. So this man, he buys a knife and he wants to cheat the blacksmith. So this knife, it's not meant for cutting, but he gives it to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith's own tools became degraded trying to serve this man, trying to carve the steel in such a way that he wanted it, but it wasn't the proper grade of steel. So this man, he ended up taking the steel and he cheated the blacksmith out of his own tools, and his own tools became blunt and not so good. And then Prabhupada is using this for an analogy. It's quite strong also. Similarly, anyone who cheats his guru by pretending to be a follower in order to receive the benefits of spiritual life without making any sacrifice is simply cheating himself. The real guru can never be cheated. He is simply giving everything and has no self-interest. He is already perfect and complete in his relationship with the Lord. My Guru Maharaj explained that sometimes when there's a disciple who just thinks that he can be initiated and receive all the mercy from the Guru, but then they're also thinking that they're not going to do anything for the Guru, they're not going to do anything for the Vaishnavas, they've got all the mercy and that's it. It ends there. It's a one-way thing. That's actually, it's being like a mosquito, you know, they're coming to harness the power of what is there, but they're not actually giving anything back. They're just causing disturbance. So we have to be careful not to become like that. It's a warning to us all not to become like a mosquito on the arms of our spiritual masters. But we should be offering service back. We should be giving back because we are indebted to them eternally. We cannot ever repay the debt. They're giving us everything, everything. They have nothing to gain from giving us everything. And yet, still, we may have the audacity to accept and not to give back. But really, we should be trying to give back at every moment, because we'll never repay that debt that we have been given, from what we have been given. And our spiritual masters, Srila Prabhupada, they're Atmaramas. They don't need anything from us, really. They don't need our service. They don't need anything. They're completely self-satisfied. But it's actually good for us to serve them. It's good for us to give back to them. And it pleases Krishna. Okay, so now we're on May the 14th, 1976. Prabhupada continues in class to develop his theme of analyzing the real problem of life and the cure for it. Shloka 13 is one he quotes very often. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha. So, how to become advanced? These are the prescribed methods, tapasa. Tapa means voluntarily taking some disadvantage. In this age it is very difficult, but this is the meaning of tapasya, voluntarily accepting inconveniences. So Guru Maharaj also explained to me that we shouldn't artificially try to be austere, because that can actually just end up hardening our hearts. But actually real austerity is a byproduct of bhakti. And everything we're doing in support of our chanting, in support of our service, that is tapasya. Fasting on Ekadashi, fasting on appearance days, kirtan, how wonderful is it? It's a tapasya. Anything in support of us becoming Krishna conscious and serving, that is actually tapasya. Even though it's at times wonderful and at times difficult. Some days the 16 rounds, that's hard. Other days it's nectar. But it's all the tapasya. Whether it's wonderful or difficult, that is the tapasya. And anything apart from that that's overly austere, that pushes us to the brink of something that is not helping our Krishna consciousness, not facilitating that, that's not real tapasya. That's unnecessary austerity, which just actually hardens the heart. And bhakti cannot grow in a hardened heart. So we have to also be careful of that. He gave us an example with an anecdote from his own practical experience. When there is cold, one has to take the help of heater, fire. No heater, no fire, but go deep into the cold water. Of course, it is very difficult in your country because the water is so cold, and if you go deep, immediately you're finished. I've seen in New York one dog, he jumped over, immediately finished. I've seen it. That is actual fact. Of course, he wasn't recommending that we sit in cold water during winter, but he made it clear that we were to take the verse's statement seriously. It is very difficult to perform tapasya, but the recommendation is there, tapasa brahmacharya. So brahmacharya, celibacy, no sex life, that is the beginning of tapasya. Shamena, shama, to control the senses, to keep in equilibrium. Senses may not be agitated. Damena, even it is agitated, by my knowledge, I have to curb down. Just like if I become agitated by seeing a beautiful girl, or for women, a beautiful boy, that is natural. Young boy, young girl, they are naturally attracted. There is nothing surprising. But tapasya means that I've taken vow. No illicit sex. That is knowledge. Even if I am attracted, I shall not do this. This is tapasya. And because I am now attracted, now we shall enjoy. That is not tapasya. He reassured us that even if it is difficult to control oneself, it can be done by practice and by remembrance. I've taken vow before the deity, before fire, before my spiritual master, before the Vaishnavas, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no drinking or intoxication, no gambling. I've promised it. If I am gentleman, how can I break my promise? This is called jnana. With knowledge one has to respect. That is called tapasya, with knowledge. So in beginning our tapasya, everything in support of us becoming Krishna conscious starts with everything we should be doing and everything we shouldn't be doing. Everything we should be doing including kirtan, shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, remembering the Lord, chanting, and then everything we shouldn't be doing, for the four regulative principles, we're following that. And both of them go together as tapasya, the things that may be difficult and the things that may be wonderful, but they go together in support of us becoming Krishna conscious. And the beginning of tapasya, it's explained here, is actually controlling the urge for sex, that desire. And of course, Prabhupada also explains that we cannot become desireless. That's not possible. We cannot just kill desire, because that's a very prominent desire. Having come to the material world, that was something that it's something that we wanted to enjoy without Krishna, and that's the position we're in. And Yet we cannot just become desireless. So what do we do with our desire? We have to purify our desires. And how we purify our desires is by offering everything we have and are to Krishna. And although we may still be following externally these regulative principles, within our hearts we may still have so many anarthas to want to enjoy. So the desire may still be there, although we may be practicing these regulative principles, we may still have some desire within our hearts. And on a more subtle level, for example, sex desire is also the desire for name, fame, and glorification. And all of us also have that to some degree. Our tendency that it's like if a mosquito were to sit on the lap of a king, and then everyone comes to see the king because he's a great personality and they're glorifying him, and the mosquito thinks, oh yes, just see how everyone is coming to me, and oh, just see how great I am. And we have that tendency, but actually all we have to do is acknowledge that anything wonderful that we have, any good quality, anything good about us is actually just mercy. It's the mercy of the Supreme Lord. It's coming to us from Him. We are a product of mercy. Everything good that we have, everything wonderful that we have, any position that we may be given, it's just the mercy of the Supreme Lord. He is giving us everything. We have nothing without Him. So it's actually not our quality. Our qualities are not our own. They are given to us in service to Him. And when we're serving Him with whatever we are, whatever we have, then He becomes pleased. Then we become purified. Everything we are, we become purified. And Prabhupada is such a wonderful example of a personality who was free from that desire. His disciples would describe that when they were waiting to greet him at the airport, all of the security men, they were kind of grumpy and trying to control the devotees, and the other people who weren't waiting for Prabhupada in the airport, they were also kind of annoyed that there were so many devotees making such a big noise. And then as soon as Prabhupada walks through the door, everyone changed. The security men come to Prabhupada and they escort him, and everyone at the airport, they're looking at Prabhupada, who's just effulgent, and the whole mood of everyone in the airport would change. And they're all glorifying Prabhupada. And what was his mood? He was completely unaffected. Completely. He wasn't thinking, yes, I am great. He was thinking, Krishna is great and I am his instrument. Yet he was great. Prabhupada was great. But he acknowledged that that greatness came from the Lord himself, that he was empowered by the Lord himself. So what he felt, he couldn't take credit for that. Of course, being surrendered, we can see that he can't take credit for that. But personally, he wouldn't say that. And for us as well, what can we take credit for if that mercy we're getting is coming from our spiritual masters who are empowered? He said there are two kinds of persons who associate with the opposite sex, but that they are the same. He described the difference: Grihamedi and Grihasta. Grihasta means although he is living with wife and children, but he knows what is the aim of life. That is the Grihasta ashram. As the sannyasi knows what is the aim of life, similarly a Grihasta also may know. So such Grihasta, sex life is allowed, who knows the aim of life. But one who does not know the aim of life simply enjoys sex. He is called Grihamedi. Those two words are there. In Sanskrit literature, every word has got particular meaning, particular thought. Therefore, it is called Samskritya, most performed and purified literature. Sanskrit. Sanskrit means purified. Samskara. Just like we offer samskara at the time of initiation, purification, so our main problem is the sex life, because sex life is the basic principle of material life. Prabhupada's 10 years of preaching to us non-Aryans has given him a lot of practical realization as to how difficult it is for people from our materialistic, sex and money-orientated culture to become a little regulated and continent. Yet he reassured us, urging us to go on and to depend on Krishna. Everything is there. You have got books. You study and follow the practice. Be little sober. It is not that you will not be helped. Is not that you'll not be able. You will all be able. And Krishna will help. As soon as you are very eager, then Krishna will help. Tesham satata yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love. That's Bhagavad Gita 10:10. So therefore the deity worship is there. Along with deity worship, we should always pray, Krishna, kindly save me from the pitfalls of Maya. He'll do it. But if we want to cheat Krishna and cheat Guru, then you'll be cheated. That's all. The Guru will not be cheated. Neither Krishna will be cheated. You will be cheated. That's all. If you want to be cheated, then do whatever you like and prolong your term of repetition of birth and death. Rather than planning to enjoy illicit sex or intoxication when we get money, Prabhupada urged us, best thing is, as soon as you get money, immediately you spend it for Krishna. Tyagena, charity. So if you make charity to Krishna, you can purchase Krishna. Yes. Although Krishna is all-powerful, proprietor, you can purchase Krishna. So do that. If you have got any money, spend for Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. So Krishna, although he is also self-satisfied Atmaram and he doesn't need anything from us, he doesn't need us to buy anything for him, still he can be purchased. How is that? Because what he's really attracted to is the bhakti. It's an exchange of energy. He's giving us energy, and if we're giving it back to him in service of him, then he's pleased by that. Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Krishna didn't need to steal butter, but why did he steal butter? What was in the butter? Yes, bhakti. He doesn't need to steal butter, but he had to steal the butter because it was full of bhakti. So anything we have that's full of bhakti, all our offerings which are full of bhakti, it purchases him. Isn't that amazing that we can melt the heart of God? Although he is melting everyone else's heart, he can be controlled by the love of his devotees. There was an emotional reunion this afternoon between Srila Prabhupada and Hayagriva Prabhu. Although he was one of Srila Prabhupada's first disciples, he has been away from devotional service for some years. He has come now to finish the philosophy book project and to be with Prabhupada for some time. He walked slowly into Prabhupada's room, his face flushed and his deep voice trembling. "It's your old Hayagriva, Prabhupada," he choked out, and fell sobbing to the floor in full-length dandavats. Prabhupada sat behind his desk, silent, but clearly moved by the sight of his sometimes wayward son. When Hayagriva got up, Prabhupada gave him a garland and remarked to Radhaballabha Das and me how Hayagriva had been sent by Krishna to help him spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. In reply, Hayagriva said that he had never forgotten Prabhupada, not even for a day. Prabhupada was deeply affected by this and said that he also had never forgotten Hayagriva. I was thinking, has Hayagriva gone away? I was thinking like that. His voice broke and he was unable to speak for a few seconds. Although he tried to check his tears, still some trickled from the corner of his eyes. Then he tipped his head from side to side. "All right," he said, and we all left. Prabhupada has so much affection for his disciples, no one can estimate how much. It was very apparent that he never forgets any devotional service that has been rendered to him. So the Lord, He never forgets even a small amount of devotional service we have rendered, knowingly or unknowingly. He never forgets that. He marks that. And Srila Prabhupada, the representative of the Lord, he also never forgot. And when his disciples would leave the movement, he would cry. He would cry for them. And there were many times when they returned and he accepted them. No matter what they had done when they left, he accepted them back. He never rejected anyone. Hardly ever. He hardly ever rejected anyone. I think there were a few instances for their own sake he had to ask them to leave. But in most cases, whatever they had done, if they came back with the right mood, he never rejected them. One example, which we'll read about a little bit later, is one of his disciples who was a sannyasi, renounced order of life, given up family and children. He left the movement, he got married, he had children, which is not what a sannyasi is ever meant to do. And when he returned to Prabhupada, what was Prabhupada's reaction? How is your wife? How are your children? How are you doing? He didn't mention anything about any fall down or leaving the movement for some time. He was concerned about his disciple. And another time, one of his disciples had left for a long time and he had long hair and he wasn't even vegetarian anymore. He left everything. He wasn't following any of the principles anymore. And then he ended up being at a program where Prabhupada came, and his disciples were trying to tell Prabhupada, no, don't speak to him, rather just don't ask him to cook for you, because he was a cook, and Prabhupada was trying to ask him, please cook for me, and they were saying, Prabhupada, he's not even practicing anymore, he can't cook for you. And Prabhupada was determined and said, no, he must cook for me. He overlooked all of that and he accepted him as his spiritual son. Please cook for me, he was saying. So he never forgets, he never overlooks even the smallest amount of service we have rendered in our lives. And May the 15th, 1976. Class was on one of Srila Prabhupada's most quoted Srimad Bhagavatam verses, 6.1.15. It describes that ultimately, only by performance of Kevala Bhakti, pure unalloyed devotional service to Krishna, can the weeds of sinful actions be destroyed, without any possibility of their arising again. Just as the sun dissipates the fog, he told us that simply countering one type of karma with another type of karma will not help. It is only when we engage in unmotivated service to Lord Krishna that we get the chance to become perfect and free. If you simply hear and chant, then you will be purified, he said. As if in answer to any doubt as to whether this alone is sufficient, he assured us it was. If you argue that somebody is hearing for so many years, so then there's no question of offense. 10 kinds of offense. So even if one is in offense, still if he continues hearing and chanting, he will be purified. So even if in the beginning we're making offenses, if we keep hearing and chanting, eventually we won't be chanting with offenses. Eventually we will be performing Kevala Bhakti. And in the Nectar of Instruction, text 7, it says, the holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So someone who has jaundice disease, they cannot eat sugar or candy or anything sweet without it tasting very bitter. But the only cure for that is to have something sweet. So although we may be chanting and we may not have taste for chanting, gradually as we are chanting, we will begin to taste the sweetness of chanting. And we will get this reciprocation, this experience from within our hearts of actually connecting with the Lord. And the only reason we're not able to contain those experiences, and we've all had them at least once in our lives, I'm sure we've all had an experience of reciprocation coming from the Lord. We've experienced within our hearts at least a drop, a tiny drop of bhakti, at least something was there. But the reason we cannot contain that experience is because the heart is full of anartas. It's like a container with holes, and there's anartas, they're making the holes. But the only cure for that is to chant and experience it more, and gradually those anartas, they will dissipate, and then our container will actually be able to facilitate bhakti and contain bhakti and not let it just pour out, but actually keep it within our hearts in a lasting way. And I just wanted to recite one verse because it's my favorite from the Kevalastakam. Maduram madurebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi harirnameva kevalam. More sweet than all other sweet things, more purifying than all other purifying things, more auspicious than all auspicious things. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Everything. So Krishna, he is giving us himself. He is giving us everything. And the more we actually appreciate what we're being given, the more we will actually chant with feeling. My Guru Maharaj explained that the very first thing that comes when we're advancing is appreciation. Appreciation for the holy name, for Sangha, for Kirtan. We will appreciate. And when we appreciate, we will look after. And if we look after, we will receive even more, because Krishna will be pleased that we're appreciating what he is giving. He's giving us everything. Everything. We just have to be ready to receive what he's giving to us. He went on to say that by simply fixing our minds on rendering service to Krishna without any motive, we are immediately liberated. Immediately liberated. Simply by fixing our minds on rendering service to Krishna without any motive, we're immediately liberated and beyond. Maya will not touch us. He said, if we're determined and if we stick to our service, Maya will not touch us. As soon as one comes to this conclusion that Krishna is mine and I am Krishna's, by this consciousness, automatically all reaction of sinful life becomes washed. When there is fog, you try in so many ways, it cannot go. Then somehow or other, if the sun rises, immediately there's no fog anymore. It's clear. And then he quotes this from this motto from the Back to Godhead magazine. Godhead is light and nescience is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there is no jurisdiction of darkness. Wherever the light is, the darkness cannot shine. The darkness cannot be present. Although severe tapasya, celibacy and charity has been recommended in the previous verses, he explained that in this age, these things were almost impossible to practice. Therefore, he concluded that the best thing is to take to Krishna consciousness. Simply this understanding that Krishna is my eternal master, I am Krishna's eternal servant, so let us exchange our feelings of master and servant, then I shall be perfect. So although these things may be so difficult for us to follow, if we just start chanting the Maha Mantra, we will be able to let these things go. Even those deeply rooted, most difficult things which we have not let go for thousands and thousands of years, easily it can be washed away in just a moment of chanting the Maha Mantra. Then in the next paragraph, it's described that Pradyumna, one of Prabhupada's disciples, he became very ill and he had these boils all over him, and he went to the doctor and they placed him onto the operating table, and they ended up cutting open his hip to try and help him through this. And it's described that this reddish green pus actually burst and spread the whole throughout the whole room, and it took about 15 minutes just to clean his incision, and it was very difficult for him, and so he was struggling quite a lot. And we may wonder sometimes, because we see our spiritual masters, pure devotees, they go through some physical ailments, they go through some difficulty, and we may wonder, how is it that Krishna is allowing this? Why is he allowing this? And I asked my spiritual master that, I think 2 weeks ago, and he explained that these are aspects of material nature that we cannot just overstep. And even for a pure devotee, being in a body as such has to go through that. Also, to show his disciples, to set the example that we can practice devotional service in whatever situation we may find ourselves. If Srila Prabhupada had just flown around the world so easily, even without an airplane, which I'm sure he could have done, free of all diseases, we would think there is no hope for us. We have so many problems with the body, so many problems with the mind. We have so many challenges in our lives. But we see from Prabhupada's example, from the example of his disciples, who were so determined to continue the movement in whatever circumstance we may find ourselves. That is the perfect circumstance to become Krishna conscious. Even if it's very difficult. And we all have difficulty with something in our lives, but whatever it may be, it's all perfect. It's all designed to bring us back. It's designed specifically to bring us back. That's what it is. And Prabhupada did that. He had so many heart attacks. He suffered. It seemed like he suffered, but he was always Krishna conscious. He set the example for us. Our spiritual masters do the same. They're chanting so many rounds a day, even though their bodies are practically deteriorating and they're in so much pain. Jayapataka Maharaj, what he has to go through every day, and he's still chanting the Maha Mantra. They're setting the example for us. We all have difficulties, but if we just keep going, undoubtedly we will please them. We will please Srila Prabhupada. We will please our Guru Parampara, all the way up to Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, Srimati Radharani. They will be pleased by our determination. And there's this part which explains how Pushta Krishna Maharaj he was communicating with a lot of devotees about how Madhur Visa, who was a sannyasi, he left, right? We had explained how his disciples were doing that sometimes, and he had given up being a part of the GBC, he had left Prabhupada's movement, and he went into hiding. And then some of his disciples were speaking about this and informing the devotees that, oh, he fell down, he left the movement. And Prabhupada was very upset by this, because he said now he can never come back. Because if someone goes away and everyone knows all of the difficulties they went through, they will feel like they can never come back. And that really upset Srila Prabhupada, because as we said before, he was so forgiving, so compassionate, and he wanted that whoever left, they should come back. He wanted them to. He cried when they didn't. He wanted everyone to feel welcome. He wanted everyone to feel safe within ISKCON. This is a family. And he understood also that he was giving initiation, sannyas initiation, to young boys, 19, 20 years old. And he expected that sometimes they will have some difficulty, but a lot of them did come back. And they did find shelter again with Srila Prabhupada, and he always accepted them back. And he was so pleased that they came back. And then how Srila Prabhupada responded to all of this. It's written here that the incident has shown me even more the expertise of His divine grace in engaging all classes of men in devotional service and in making the best use of whatever little facility He is given. Whatever strength this movement has lies in Him. Even with inadequate and unqualified manpower, He is showing that one can nevertheless be eminently successful in spreading Krishna consciousness if he is sincere and surrendered to Lord Krishna. And then, despite the disruptions of the day, Srila Prabhupada and Hayagriva discussed the philosophies of Socrates and Plato for 2.5 hours this evening, and afterwards Prabhupada went straight into his translation work, dictating throughout the night and notching up another 315 digits on the dictaphone. So we can see how, although there are all these disturbing things happening and Prabhupada has to manage ISKCON, he doesn't forget his service. And the reason Srila Prabhupada was so successful in preaching Krishna consciousness was because he had full faith in the instruction of his spiritual master. He had full faith in the holy names of the Lord. He was given these 2 instructions: to spread Krishna consciousness in the West, to Western people, and to print books. And what has he done with those 2 instructions? He created a worldwide institution, and he created so many books which are being spread all over the world. Isn't that amazing? With those 2 instructions, look at how much he did. How many instructions have we received? So many. And if we were really to fulfill those instructions, how much more we could do for our spiritual masters, how much more we could do for our Guru Parampara, and how much more they would be so pleased with us. And it's not that Srila Prabhupada couldn't do it by himself. It's not that our acharyas could not do it by themselves. Lord Chaitanya was here just over 500 years ago. He could do that by himself, all over the world, all over the universe. Everyone could be Krishna conscious. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a person that could spread Krishna consciousness also all over the world. Yet what did he do? He made a prediction that there will be a personality who would come and they would share Lord Chaitanya's service all over the world, easily traveling. And then Srila Prabhupada came. But when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was leaving his body, he said that, oh, my work is unfinished. My work is unfinished. But it's not that he couldn't have finished it. He could have, but he didn't, because he was giving the mercy to us to finish. Again, Prabhupada, he could have finished. And yet also, what did he say? I have one regret. What was that regret? I didn't establish the Varnashram system. He is leaving his work unfinished. There's work for us to do. We have beautiful temples. We have all of our service, book distribution, deity worship. Everything's there. All the facilities there. But our work is not finished. Prabhupada left that work for us. It's in our hands. He's giving that mercy to us. And it's for our benefit. It's for our benefit to be able to serve. So let us also try and to accept full faith in those instructions, to accept full faith in the holy name, and let's just see how much more we can do for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual masters, our Guru Parampara. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, comments that anyone would like to share? Radhanath? Madhurya? No. Raj? Nothing? Radhika Jivana? You have anything? No? Okay. I think Raj has.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Not a comment, but I think just an observation. The first time that I came to Shishi Radharanath temple, it's probably 1988. And I remember seeing Srimati Radharani's eyes so clearly. But that was the first time. And subsequently, even if I sit here or if I stand here, I can't necessarily see that. But one of the observations I want to bring to fold is that sometimes we have this perspective that the Grihastra ashram is not bona fide. So could you elaborate a little bit on that, where Srila Prabhupada does substantiate it? Because I think we do have many younger boys, girls, and sometimes, as you explained, Prabhupada did certain things at a point in time, and you did say that the Varnashrama Dharma system, and his latter days, he did vocalize that he feels his mission is not successful. And I just want to clarify that, because I think a lot of the younger devotees don't accept that the Grihastra ashram is still bona fide within Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. So Srila Prabhupada would say different things at different times depending on his audience. So to the brahmacharis, he would say, stay a brahmachari. All the women should be married and all the men should be brahmachari. And to the grihastas, he would say, have children in Krishna consciousness, spread the movement. So it depended on his audience, but of course the grihasta ashram is a bona fide ashram. There are 4 ashrams and that is one of them. Prabhupada himself was a grihasta. He has children. He went through all of the ashrams. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a grihasta. Very empowered personality. He was a grihasta. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord, he was a grihasta. So it's definitely a bona fide ashram. And yeah, there should be no misconception about that. There are 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, and grihasta ashram is completely bona fide, absolutely bona fide. And it's just a matter of following within the ashram as we are expected to. There are also rules and regulations within the ashram. Within each ashram, there are specific rules and regulations. There are specific things you have to give up. And there are specific kinds of enjoyments that you get to experience. Like in sannyasi ashram, you're giving up family, you're giving up house, home, but you're accepting a life which is free from that. And there's also a sense of freedom which comes with that. So there's something difficult or something you have to give up, and something also wonderful, exciting. You can travel the world and share Krishna consciousness. So there has to be both. There has to be the tapasya with the enjoyment. We cannot have enjoyment without tapasya. Krishna is the enjoyment. He is anything good in the world, anything wonderful, anything that we're experiencing which is giving us joy. That is Krishna, and that comes in every single ashram with the tapasya. And in grihasta ashram, it would be, the tapasya would be having to take care of a family. It's not easy. It's a tapasya. Having to manage all this facility you're being given, that's a tapasya. But it comes with the joy of relationship with wife, husband, child. There's joy in that. So in every ashram there is something which is a tapasya and something which is joyous, and both they go together. That kind of answers your question. Okay. Thanks so much for that though. Alright. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande.